completely. But I've been having some phone issues this morning, and I've been trying to go live. This is like my third time because it keeps hanging up. So if we get good signal, great. If not, I will do this as a long form video. So for those of you that are here, I want to say hi and welcome. Um, let's okay. So let me kind of back up here, take a few minutes for those of you that are just coming in because this just like I don't have a scheduled time to go live. When I have a moment, I'm gonna go live, and then you guys can catch it in the after party. And see if you like it. Now, sometimes some of the video or the live streams that I put out may go behind the membership wall, so if you want to see those are stuff that I want to talk about, but I'm planning on doing something more like a long form video on. This may be one of those. Who knows? I don't know. But if you guys see sometimes some of my live streams are going behind the membership wall, it's just because I want to do a long form video on it. And what I was doing was sharing some of my raw thoughts during the live stream because at the end of the day, all this it can be considered my opinion for YouTube and its algorithm and all that stuff. So let's talk about Trump's Endgame because that's what this live stream is going to be about. Um, and we'll see if everything works out the way it's supposed to. So for those of you that are new here, let me give you a little bit of my understanding. So I'm your host, Professor Tuck, by the way. Um, my understanding is this: my great uncle, he was in the remote viewing project in the 70s. If you ever seen the movie Men Who Stare at Goats, that's just kind of like a satire of what they were really doing. They're making fun of it, but in reality, that's what my great uncle did. In order to be considered to have the psychic ability by the federal government, you need to have at least an 80% accuracy rate. And so, therefore, he gave me some things to be able to tell if somebody's really psychic or if they're just playing a game or if they just think that they are, because some of us have psychic abilities, but for the most part, um, it just sometimes we just have intuition. It's not necessarily a psychic ability. And one of the things that my great uncle explained to me is that somebody who is psychic isn't going to do it for money. Most of the time, they're coming across somebody and they're so horrified by what it is, or it's whatever it is it moves them so much that the only way that they can get it to go away is to tell the person. And so indirectly, they're just going to come up. It's going to be random. From what I understand, that there are very, very, very like less than 1/1000th of a percent of the population that actually has this ability. And so again, 80% accuracy rate, they're not going to do it for free. They're not doing it for notoriety and stuff like that. There are just some people that pass themselves off to be something that they're not. Now, the weird thing about this guy that I follow, his name is Billy Meyer, Meier, if you ever want to look him up. The UFO stuff is the red herring. It's meant to be a distraction. You got to really read what he says, not look at all the distractions, because that's meant to kind of like uh, how do you filter out idiots? You give an idiot a shiny object to look at. So if you really want to know what he really thinks and what he's about, read his writings. Don't The UFO shit is just it's just a red herring. But also my great uncle, who was the army psychic, also showed me a picture of UFOs, like one that was sitting there over Crater Lake in Oregon, and it was sitting over Crater Lake. You couldn't see it with the naked eye, but for some reason the camera caught it, and it was like a giant ship that was the size of the damn lake, that was there. And apparently, like, yeah, his friends gave him the picture because they were too afraid to come public with it because of whatever. But so, anyways, go check out Billy Meyer if you really want to understand what I'm talking about, because he gives a list of predictions, and he's been so accurate with his predictions that they're almost I haven't found a single one that hasn't come true yet. So I read up and I keep up on what it is that he says, because it kind of gives me an indication or an idea of what it is that I need to prepare for as a human being. Because it's not about being a prepper and being like, hopefully this will happen. One day I see this might happen, or there's a possibility that this might happen. It's kind of like, okay, so I know this is coming. If somebody comes and says in 10 years, or in the next few years, the federal government will be no more, and they have a track record of being accurate, like in more than 80% of the time, um, then do you heed it, or and prepare for it, or do you call yourself a prepper? So, hey, what's up, Lucky Larry? I ain't seen you in a while. Things must be better for you. You're not outside in the woods. No, I am in Missouri. I have a job. I have been working there for about 4 months. I still have my property in Arizona. So, yeah, this YouTube has opened up a lot of doors, a lot of opportunities for me. And so I want to throw a shout out to my sponsor, Stephanie at openairproperties.net. I buy my property from her, and I wouldn't recommend something to you that I myself wouldn't be willing to do. So go check out Stephanie at openairproperties.net. If you use the promo code Friar Tuck when you go through the contact process, you'll get $50 off of your deposit. Or if you just mention my name, say, hey, Friar Tuck sent me, she will give you $50 off of your deposit. Go check out Stephanie at openairproperties.net. Now, getting back to Billy Meyer, he in about 2017, and this is coming up in the forums that surround the Meyer community. But in 2017, he came out and he said that the ruling elite were conspiring to use the next pandemic to control the economy and the politics, so our political spectrum. And if you remember the Wall Street Journal article where we found out what happened really with the 2020 election, and just the arrogance that came out from that, if you look at how the economy has been completely is being taken over by specific entities, you will see that a lot of that they have control over the economy and they have control over the political arena. Um, was it Nathan de Rothschild once said, "Give me control of a nation's money supply, and I care not who makes its laws." Well, in the same way, give me control of a nation's commerce, and we will control the laws. So, um, anyways, part of this other thing was about the population. Okay, I'm not going to go into a lot of the conspiracy stuff because I don't really want to be the conspiracy thing, but the population reduction may or may not have been part of this. So if we look at what happened in 2020, now we're starting, there's articles, I don't know if it's becoming mainstream, but it's out on the fringe, talking about how some of these vaccines may have had, like, basically you would consider like nanotechnology that was put inside it. We were hearing rumblings of this as early as 2020 of people talking about this, but there's starting to become some proof of this, and it's Bluetooth technology. It will basically, the you have a homing beacon within you, that allows you to to them to know your location up to the within like 50 feet of where you're at. So that's something to really be thoughtful of. Now, I don't know how true it is. This is something that I've read. I cannot say it's fact, but it's up to you to go do your own due diligence and to go do your own research if you're curious about something like this. Because, I mean, honestly, if you've taken the vaccine, that would be one of the big things that I would think about. And then, if you notice, so in 2023, AI took off, and they're starting to build data centers. Um, Data centers, think of it like this. There are rumblings from people that are close to these data centers, and essentially, when they turn on the water faucet, they'll be lucky to actually get water. And if there is water that comes out because of the waste that's coming out, because of all the cooling that has to be done in these data centers, it's turning the water into sludge. I've seen some content on that. Not sure how true that is yet. That would be something, if you guys are interested in, you might want to go look at. But Glenn Beck just recently played something through from Bill Gates, and Bill Gates is talking about how we need to start thinking about the human aspect, and we need to start thinking about like what it is that we could do that balances climate control with this. Well, why would Bill Gates be into something like this? Well, and why would he all of a sudden start changing his tune? Well, he's repackaging it. He has financial interest in the AI race because he is partnered with OpenAI, and Microsoft is doing their own thing with Copilot, and other AI stuff that they're working on. So you have them getting into it, and they need to be able to have data centers. So all of a sudden, they have to think about profit over environment, which in reality they didn't care about. They didn't care about the environment to begin with. They only cared about creating climate change laws and policy that would allow them to line their pockets. But the second that they could line their pockets even more, and kind of throw climate change to the side, then they are start talking about, well, we need to start thinking about the human element. Question: what's the absolute cheapest way to have a viable address for your ID? It would be nothing more the prevention of getting rounded up these days for being homeless. Well, Lucky Larry, if you have the ability to get um, a PO box, when you put it as an address, your box number goes in the apartment number. Instead of writing PO box, you write the address plus the box number. And so, like, even when I was donating plasma, that's what I used. That's a good way to get around it. You're going to pay about $100 a year for it, but it's still, this is the cheapest way that you can do it. If you want to be able to have something that says that you have an address, now there's a lot more going into this, so we can do this through email and more timely. Yes, Lucky Larry. I am. I will tell you that I've got so many things pulling on me at this point in time that I don't really check my emails as much as I wanted to. But that would be the answer to your question. So, anyways, Bill Gates has changed it. We're also going through this whole budget crisis. We're dealing with ICE. We're dealing with the No Kings. We're dealing with Antifa, BLM, and I'm not even sure about the right wing groups. We have the whole thing with Charlie Kirk. I mean, 2025 has been a very, very eventful year. We have political, whatever you want to call them, that's safe for YouTube, that happened, kind of like, and this isn't the first time this has happened. It's just that most people end up surviving, because if you remember Rand Paul, son of Ron Paul, it was a Republican baseball game that they were playing, and they had a shooter come through, and so this isn't the first time. Even Tulsi, was it Tulsi Gabbard, or there was another female senator, I believe, that she basically got a hole in her face. If you guys remember that as well, this isn't what happened to Charlie Kirk isn't the first thing, but we're also finding out, one of the things that I'm finding out about the whole Charlie Kirk thing, and this is just my opinion based upon my deductive reasoning, is that, um, from what I understand, there was some embezzling and some other stuff that was going on. Charlie Kirk, because of all the bad stuff, the bad publicity that was starting to come out, I was trying to figure out where all the money was going, required an audit. And in the intent of requiring the audit, his business partners put a hit out on him. I don't think that this was a political assassination. I think that Turning Point USA is about to get caught in a huge scandal plus a conspiracy. If you really look at the writing on the wall, Okay. So, what is, in order to have the reduction of population, to control the politics, and to control the economy, what better way to do it than through through a government shutdown? And who better to do it under than Donald Trump? Donald Trump may not be the instigator of this. There is a guy, his OMB head, I think his name is Vought. He has a very interesting story, and he was part of the first Trump administration. They tried to get certain things done by impounding funds so that they can release it. While Trump was in exile for 4 years, he wrote, I think, somewhere around 150 executive orders. He is doing more to not only progress the Trump agenda, but to progress his own agenda, because he wants to he wants to go behind the scenes and bring America back to its original sovereignty. People think that the debt is what will actually save America. Is if we get our debt and we become a responsible nation and we have all this wealth, and we'll be this. But what does it require to have all of that wealth? That's what created empires. That's what created the American empire post World War II, is that we accumulated so much wealth that we became fat, happy, and lazy. It happens. It's a repetitive cycle. When you have abundance, there is less drive and less desire and less strife. And so, therefore, the population becomes lazy because they became rich. And most people can't handle wealth. If you really want to be, if you really want to, uh, uh, if you really want to be honest about it. What's up, DFH? Nice to see you. So, under the Biden administration, we got a lot of inflation. That inflation has priced most people out of the market to a point where they have to choose, especially with these austerity programs that are coming down. Because we were warned, even by Peter Schiff in 2006, 2008, we were warned by Peter Schiff that. That we would have to tighten our belt. The same austerity that was in Europe is going to come here to America, because we're the global superpower, the global reserve currency. It's going to hit us last, but when it hits us last, it's like you have a fire that starts on the outside, goes in, finds the main igniter, and then just blows out and just completely annihilates everything. So everybody thinks it's all going to be good. We just need to fix it until finally it comes home to roost here in the United States, which is, what I think is happening. So you're going to have to choose between, do I buy food or do I pay rent? Is my rent inexpensive enough to where I can afford food or not? Because the main thing, that the poster child that they're using for this whole shutdown is the SNAP benefits. All these people are going without it. Well, apparently only 1/3 of the people receiving food stamps are American citizens, US citizens. That means 2/3 of these people should not be on there. So on one hand, you're cutting your, what is it? You're splitting your nose to spite your face. I think that's the original thing. So we're doing harm to 1/3 of Americans, okay, or maybe 10% of Americans, 4% of Americans. You're doing harm to that group in order to take out the larger group of people that are taking it that shouldn't be getting it. Why? I mean, you're going through with ICE already. ICE has the ability to come in there and to stop these benefits, because what they're doing is, if they're getting benefits illegally, or if the states are administering it illegally, then the states need to be held accountable and stop coming after the individual that's going to be harmed the most, that you're going to do the most harm to. Because you could put somebody homeless and then be homeless indefinitely, all over the fact of, I got an ego trip and I got to show my power. It makes no sense. Okay. So, I mean, we are going through, we're going to begin to go through an austerity process. I think that that's really what the Trump administration is going to do. And I think it's going to, I think what it's going to do is it's going to lead to a consolidation of state power. Okay. This is something that I think, um, I think is uh, uh I, I I don't know. I really think that it is. I think it is inevitable. I think that at the end of the day, what will end up happening is we're going to end up looking at the end result, and we're going to see that the states lost their sovereignty. Okay, so for example, let me give you an example. Okay, all of this, you and me as the people that live in the county, that's where the real power resides, is in the county. Because if you look at the source of all power in America, the way that the Constitution was set up, and that even though we still have the republic, what they do is an overlay of a new government. They reorganize it on top of what is already there. In Windows, they call it wow, Windows on Windows, or what I like to say is shit on shit. All right. So think about it. Think about it this way. Um, uh, um, you have the democracy or the socialist democracy or the socialist republic or whatever it is that you want to call it. You have that on top of the actual republic. Okay, and so the original balance of power, the source of all power, even in the democracy, goes all the way down to the county level. Why does it go down to the county level? Is because it's all set up essentially in what's called a public trust. You have a guarantor, which is the people, the citizens within that county, within that jurisdictional boundary, that have come together to create a society that benefits all of society. So therefore, they have the guarantors, which are the citizens, the trustee, which is the seat of government, and the beneficiaries, which are the citizens. You cannot be all three. You can only be no more than two of the three in order for it to be a legitimate trust, which is why government is a necessary evil, is that you need a trustee, an administrative branch, to be able to administer that. And so the counties did the same thing with the state, and the state did the same thing with the United States. And so if you really look at the string of power, the very source of it, it relies down at the very county level. Okay, so when you start thinking about how all of this is going to play out, you really need to look into the community level. Okay, now Meyer, about a week or two ago, came out with a new contact note. Most of what he was talking about was how we're being stupid with our wild animal population, by farmers and ranchers, putting together sheep and livestock and other things, putting it together. What it's doing is it's creating larger packs of wolves because of the abundance of food and the ease of access. I mean, it's like dangling a carrot in front of a rabbit and telling it not to eat it. I mean, how do you expect that to work? So the wolf populations are getting larger, and a lot of it has to do with our incompetence in how we manage our livestock, and how we kind of corral them all together and just kind of give them a 5-star meal, and stuff like that. Um, and so one of the things that he talked about that caught my interest, I want to kind of do. I'm sure it'll come out publicly later on, but the peace that we have in the Middle East with Israel, it's not real. There's some shenanigans that's going on. Meyer wouldn't talk about what the shenanigans was, but he stated that there was some shenanigans, and he is calling Donald Trump a dictator. And one of the things that's been coming out within the forums that I follow within the Meyer community, and you guys can decipher this however you want, but apparently Trump is supposed to usher in a dictatorship style of government that has never been seen, and that will be the worst that humanity on earth has ever encountered. And this is just the beginning, because as you consolidate state power, if you go back to the origins of the Constitution, not the country was formed well before the Constitution, almost a decade before the Constitution. We were under the Articles of Confederation, and in the Articles of Confederation, um, we were a confederacy. It was a loose union of states that came together for mutual defense, but they lacked a couple of things within their articles of organization, such as the right to coin money and the right to tax, because they still had war debt. So therefore, the Constitutional Convention, the reason why they were did it in secret, because they knew they were committing treason, is because they were sent there to fix a document, not create a whole new one. And they chose to create a whole new one. And the original founding father, which would be Thomas Paine, um, he was the one. If you go read Common Sense, he lays out what the Federalist government was, what it was that our original ancestors, the ones that fought the American Revolution, were really fighting for. They weren't fighting for a constitution. They were fighting for the style of government, a representative government that allowed the people to self-govern. That was what they fought for. They did not fight for the Constitution. The Articles of Confederation and presidents were elected by the Senate, all the way up until 1787 or 1789. The Constitution was conditionally ratified in 1787, and then fully ratified once the Bill of Rights, because Thomas Paine was actually a Federalist. And the people who called themselves Federalists, the ones that we call our founding fathers, were actually monarchists. They believed in that. What the difference in ideology was that Thomas Paine and the Anti-Federalists believed in keeping power localized, whereas the monarchists who called themselves Federalists said that they wanted a strong national government because it would reinstitute a new style of divine rule. And so this is something that has been a fight. Now, the Constitution was designed by those that called themselves Federalists, who were actually monarchists, was designed to eventually, over time, erode into full-on centralized power within Washington, D.C. This starts becoming evidence in the 1830s under Andrew Jackson, when you have a federal overlay of territories that has the same boundaries as the states. But the thing is it's just writings on a map. If you go into your state constitution, you will not find meets and bounds. And if there are no meets and bounds, then there is no state. It is a nationalized government. That is why we look at our politics national versus local. But you got to realize that the democracy is on top of the republic. The republic exists because that is what we chose to do. But yet we reorganized into different styles of government over time. The most recent one that I'm aware of happened under the New Deal. The one before that happened post Civil War, in which we became more of a corporatocracy or an oligarchy. And that's why we have, the stories of the robber barons, and we have Teddy Roosevelt, who was a man of the people. He was also a socialist. And he was the one that really pushed for workers' rights and things like that. So, I mean, there's plenty of evidence in history to be able to prove this, especially in American history. So if you're sitting there and you're looking at this, Donald Trump is doing exactly what the Federalists wanted to have done, which is to create a strong national government. But in order to do that, you have to completely null and void the Bill of Rights, and therefore create your own dictatorial rule, because the original Constitution was written without the Bill of Rights. So go read the Constitution and then just completely ignore the Bill of Rights. And that's exactly what was intended to be set up, which is the foundation for a strong national government, which would later in time become a dictatorship. And I think that at that point in time, right now, you have some pushback, but it's not pushback because they're virtue signaling. It's pushback because they wanted to be the ones in power versus letting Donald Trump being in power, because, the liberals wanted to be in power, but yet Donald Trump got in there and did it before they could, and da 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 da. Okay. So let's see. Patriot News Today said, I think JD Vance and Erica Kirk are lovers. Watch the Ole Miss TP USA hug they shared. Uh, that might be possible. She said publicly she wouldn't marry again, but JD has a lot of Charles qualities. Huh. So vote no on Proposition 50. I don't know, Carol. I don't know what Proposition 50 is. Are we talking about the redistricting? That's that's gerrymandering, and it's been going on for a long time. When one party takes power, the other one does it. When the every time the Republicans try and redistrict, the Democrats go up in hoopla, and it makes national news. But every time the Democrats do it, it fucking gets hushed down, and you'll see it in the local news where the Republicans are complaining about the Democrats doing the same thing that they're doing. So they're all doing it. And quite frankly, forget about the political party. The two-party system has failed you as an American. The two-party system was never meant to be. We were meant to be a plurality of parties, because there are different viewpoints based upon region, based upon demographics, based upon culture, based upon all kinds of different things. We have different ideas on how we do it. I mean, libertarian, if you want to talk about a conservative that comes from the West Coast versus a conservative that comes from the East Coast, a conservative that comes from the East Coast is more about money and corporate power, versus the conservatives that come from the West Coast. You'd call them rhinos, or liberal libertarians, or libertarians with some conservative leaning. But yet they're both put into the same party, and so and neither one of them is getting properly, um uh neither one of them is getting any proper representation. We were meant to have the plurality of parties, and the fact that we've allowed ourselves to be consolidated into a two-party system will always create a situation in where we are ripe for civil war, because there comes a point when you can no longer, where you keep hammering out your differences and never being able to get uh, uh, over time, never being able to get results, that eventually everybody stops listening to each other, and then it goes to fisticuffs. Because in reality, each party, their objective, in the same way that a corporation's objective is to its sole mandate is for profit, the sole mandate for each political party is to completely eliminate all competition and be the sole party in power. And so therefore you're setting things up right for civil war, for this to happen. So, anyways, guys, I just wanted to get on here, sit there, say hi to you guys, kind of share with you my thoughts on what's going on. I hope you're able to discern some of this. Something that I do want to kind of be vocal about. Um, I did not expect this to escalate the way it is and the way it has. So, what I have chosen to do is uh, I'm working on my business, and I'm working on building my trail school, and hopefully the world doesn't blow up before I get it to take off. And if it takes off before the world blows up, then I think I will be fine. My plan B, my plan B is this. I have talked about this since the beginning. I've been expecting this for some time, because Meyer talked about it. We are supposed to have back-to-back civil wars. The second civil war will destroy the United States to a point where we will be five separate countries. We are already pre-drawn out in our culture and in the way it's going to be. If any of you guys want to do actual maps to show how there could be five separate countries within the continental United States, that would be something that would be interesting to see what you guys think. But I've known that this was coming, and I'd hoped that while I was on the road, I would be able to cover it. I am going to try and cover it. I'm going to start doing a lot more regular live streams. I'm going to do 3 different fundraisers for crowdfunding. Okay, my whole idea is to have this prepared and ready to go by spring. Um, is to have this by um and to have this ready by spring, because I think that during the cold months, people tend to shut up and keep their mouth shut because it's cold and they want to survive the winter. As soon as it starts to thaw out, I think that's really when you're going to see things kind of take off. And so I want to be prepared to go when that happens. So maybe June, July, August, it may really kick off, but I will start keeping an eye starting around February, March to see how this all goes, because I think that the Trump presidency is going to be 4 years of turmoil. And something that I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of be on the ground floor and share a lot of what's going on. So thanks, piano. Um, it, it's just I if the world blows up before I can get my business off the ground, this is my plan B. So we're going to keep an eye on it. This is going to be something we're going to be talking about a little bit more often, is because it's never going to happen like tomorrow the whole world's on fire. No, it doesn't happen like that. It's a slow erosion. It becomes a boiling frog effect. It becomes, today there's a fight, tomorrow there's a fight, the next day there's a fight, then you expect to fight the next day, and it becomes normal because you're like, okay, I'm still able to go to work, I'm still able to feed myself and stuff like that, until one day you can't. And that is going to be the moment in which I've been trying to prepare you for the last 3 years in so many different ways, to share my different points of view, my experiences, and how I've managed to survive, because these skills will eventually pay off if you go back and if you watch a lot of my older content and see kind of like not only my thought process but how I lived, because one day you may have to live like that whether you want to or not. So my plan B, Spain 2026. Okay, by the way, Denver will be the new capital. um you know what? Skid Row has moved from Skid Row in LA to Denver. I don't really think that Denver could be, unless they fix and push back the Californians. If you want to know, the biggest cancer on this country is Californians. Californians should be quarantined and not allowed to reproduce, and not allowed to leave the state. Because they are so destructive. If you look at what's going on in Oregon, it's because of the all the people from California leaving California, bringing their shit with them. And then if you look at what's going on in Washington, same damn thing. And now it's happening in Colorado and every other state. Um, you know, that's something that you will have to really yeah, it's just something to consider. So, but anyways, guys, this is just my take, my opinion. You're going to be seeing a lot more of me now that Oz is working nights, I work days. So today and tomorrow my days off. You'll start seeing me a lot more often. I'm not going to just come on and just talk to talk or be on the live stream just to be on the live stream. I'm going to come when I see that there's something worth talking about. That's why it's going to be random. So if you want to watch it post live stream, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. If you want to make sure that you see even the ones that I put behind the membership wall, make sure that it's $2.99. It's not like I'm asking. It was the lowest amount I could charge to have a membership, and so $2.99 is get you access to anything that I decide to put behind the membership wall. All right, you guys are gonna kind of be, if you've been here for my first journey and watch how I've gone, now you get to watch and see how it erodes for the average man. But guess what? I want to show you guys something. Oh, so I've got all of my gear, right? But the thing that I like most about all of this is that I've been able to upgrade a lot of my gear since I've been here. And you guys have been hearing me talk about how much I wanted wool um, for myself, and how much of a big deal that was for me. I went and bought me some merino wool under my base layer as merino wool. I'm pulling it out right now. I just gotta pull it out of my backpack. See, I'm always packed and ready to go. I will always be packed and ready to go at a moment's notice. That is part of not only being a nomad, but just the lifestyle in which I have done. So let me show you a couple of things that I have upgraded on. So you guys know Sam's saddlebag was by Roughwear. I still haven't taken the sign off of it, but as you guys can see, this is Roughwear. Okay. And so this right here is called the Inferno. This will get Sam down to, like, we can do probably negative degrees with this. This is meant to be there to keep her warm, especially her underbelly. This cost me $100. Okay, it's through Roughwear. It unzips like this. Okay, and you just put her in it and then zip it right on up. So if it's cold, got an ice storm, whatever, Sam is going to be warm. Now, one thing with Roughwear, and I had to learn this with her pack, is I got her the large and I should have gotten her the medium. So this one right here is a medium. She's about a 50, 60 pound dog. But I found this is 100% merino wool. Okay, this is 320 weight. These are the pants. So I found me a set. This is from Merino Tech. So you can find their website, probably Merino Tech, but a super fine merino wool. It's 100%. It's 320 weight, as you can see right here. I hope you guys can see it because I can't see the camera. Okay. So this is 320 weight. It's really nice. It's really smooth. You cannot wash it in the washing machine. You have to hand wash it. You have to wring it out in a towel. You cannot wring it out like this. You got to sit there and put it in the towel and roll it up and wring it out in the towel to get some of the wetness off, and then sit there and let it naturally dry. But I've already worn these once, and it's pretty good. I will tell you. I've enjoyed it. This cost me $120 for this set because this is also the shirt. And as you guys can see, it's 320. What size did I get? I got extra large because I like my stuff big on me. Okay, so this is 320 weight as well. So I have, as you guys can see, I have upgraded, and I will show you another new piece that I just recently got, because you got to realize, like you, if you're a prepper, you guys are gear junkies. I'm a gear junkie, but that's just because I'm a nomad. Being a nomad, I have different style, different wants of gear. But let me show you. Let me show you my newest. If you guys remember the Nature Nova filter I got, it is equally comparable um, to Sawyer, and it's honestly, it may not give you as many gallons as Sawyer, but if you're traveling, you're going to replace your filter at least once a year or every other year. And so, like, quite frankly, this will last you 1 to 2 years. So what I did is they actually have little bottles, Nature Nova, and it's just basically like it's got a straw on the inside, as you guys can see, and I can sit there and do that because in my current pack I don't have a place to be able to put a water bottle, so I've got to put it on a carabiner and carry it right here so that I can sit there and drink the water all I want. So this is something, like, I had to be adaptive because, as you see, let me see right here, that's my pack, and if you see down there, Oz, I bought her a pair of shoes. She was supposed to buy me a coat, but bought me that instead. But that's the -10 degree um, uh, Ozark Trail. Because you guys remember, if you watch me on Trail, you guys would see that I always did the 30 degree, and Ozark Trail does comfort. Everyone else does critical. Ozark Trail does comfort. Okay, so 30 degree comfort is the same as a 0 degree bag that you would buy, and so you can buy that for like $35, and versus the $100 you're going to pay through Teton for the same damn bag. Now it will be a little bit lighter, and it will be a little bit more compact. But comparatively speaking, for the price, I would rather stick with that because you get to a certain point of the year where that 30-degree bag you don't want. You want to quilt instead. So which is why I have my puffer wolf. But this I just this is some of the new gear that I have upgraded with since I have been here. A lot of the other stuff I still have. I also now have an alcohol burner, and I'm getting away from the butane because although it's easier to find butane when you're out on trail, it is alcohol is a much better lighter, and like I would rather have that as a stove, because it's much easier. I don't know. I like it. Celibacy comes to mind. Okay. Hi, what's up, Grandpa the Sailor Man? Nice to see you, buddy. Poor little victim being victimized by all the evil Californians. Yes, Californians are evil. Denver is higher altitude, safer region from weather modification events like flooding. Yeah, well, you might be right on that. Okay. Okay, guys. So it's been about 45 minutes. This is the longest live stream I've done in a while. But like I said, I'm going to come on here with topics. Can you put Stephanie's information in the links? Um, I believe it should be down in the description, Raymond. If you, because I generally put that in there in the description. It should be one of the first few links that I put down there for you. So you should see that there. If not, well, James, I'm sorry for you, but you should stay in California. You should have never left. So, and quite frankly, I'm just gonna put this is I watched the Californians destroy my home state, so don't expect me to have any sympathy or feel bad or guilt or remorse. If somebody comes to your home and burns it down, how would you feel? So, good. Stay in California. Don't leave. You guys are the state as a whole is damaged. I'm not a Christian, but the whole wild olives. The whole wild olives parable within that Jesus talks about. I think that California fits in there as a wild olive branch. Um, so, but yeah, as someone who has had to deal with it firsthand, like if you guys, okay, when Oakland was having a shooting every day in like around 2006 to like 2009, 10, Oakland was having a shooting every single day. I was leaving San Francisco when that happened to go back to my home in Oregon, and um within a year or two, all of those gangs were starting to come up the West Coast and started taking root in Portland. We had an old man that he was like 80 years old, looked at a tweaker wrong on the Max train, and that tweaker beat that guy within an inch of his life. It was really chaotic, but that became the beginning of the end for Oregon, because all of a sudden you start getting a flood of all of that moving up to, like, because they needed new fertile grounds. They'd already ran fucking California into the ground, and so it slowly became so unsafe. And then they started implementing the nanny state policies and all this other stuff, to where like you don't even have the right to defend yourself. That's a California idea. The average Oregonian who's born and native in Oregon will tell you that the right to defend yourself is an inherent right. But apparently, California doesn't think so. And therefore, they keep passing all those policies up and down. So you have good people that are being harmed, that are law abiding by criminals who have more rights than the people than they're attacking. And that is exactly what California brings. So, but anyways, yes. What do you live? Hardware, California, come to you and bone your house down. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's, yeah. Well, being from Oregon, and like I was raised in Oregon, I left in 2017 because it got so bad that all anybody had to do was just call the cops and say you did something, and you were convicted on hearsay. We're already hearing, like, if you're hearing stories about some of the No Kings protests and stuff like that that was going on in Portland. There were reporters that, because they weren't sympathetic to it, BLM had them arrested. And there's, oh god, there's a guy, he's going around, he's actually giving interviews on a lot of the podcasts about what happened, or some podcasts, because not everybody's willing to take them just because of how hot button of an issue it is. But yeah, go check that stuff out. But anyways, yeah, well, I can just face palm. Anyways, guys, I will see you the next time I'm live. Thanks for being here.